Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Phase Live. It's our very first episode for 2026. Got an absolute banger lined up for you today. We've got Jenny from Monke DAO joining us, as well as the usual suspects. But first of all, Jimmy, how you doing, man? Great to have you on today.
Hey guys, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be the very first guest of 2026, and I couldn't be more excited to kickstart the year with the fellow homies right here.
Woo! Let's go.
Gonna be good, man. How was your Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, Christmas and New Year, this holiday was a lot of rest. I think 2025, I think safe to say, was a pretty hectic year for us all for good reasons, I would like to believe. No, not so much of holidays in terms of traveling, but just a very, very restful holidays. And I hope it's been the same for you guys as well.
Nice, well deserved, dude. It
Absolutely.
looked like you got absolute blast at breakpoint as always. Monke DAO always pulls out all the stops. How was that, man? How was the experience? I heard Abu Dhabi was actually incredible. It looked like a music festival.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi was definitely a movie of its own, and I think Seb, knows it. Seb has been an early contributor of us at Monkey DAO. He was there before, we were even good at events. He basically helped us figure things out, and of course, Chris joined us as well. But this time around, Breakpoint was pretty much a banger for us. We had over 400 members there. We thought Breakpoint last year was crazy. This time around, 400 real members, especially in a period where the NFT markets are like relatively muted. Everyone across the Web2 and the Web3 space, especially calling for the death of NFTs, right? Please, hopefully this is not a record or screenshotted. But jokes aside, it's been really, really nice to be able to prove that communities are pretty much very still well alive. To bring 400 real members, entirely verified, real community members up in the room to join us out at Breakpoint, and to be able to bring 270 people to the sand dunes together is absolutely insane. We literally planned for 50 tickets, and we were like, oh, would we even sell out 50 tickets? And then after that we're like, oh no, shit, like the company, the service provider that we were working with literally ran out of cars. They were like, hey, you know what, you guys got to slow down, because otherwise we literally have no more cars to provide you with. So we're like, okay, fine, we'll stop selling tickets. So yeah, it's been a really, really fun time. Of course, always great to be able to hang out. And this time around, we got to know Chris on a deeper level, spend some time with Chris. So it's nice.
Yeah, it was fantastic, man. It was really, really great meeting all of you guys and hanging out. And honestly, I've attended many events over the last couple of years, not specifically crypto, just in general. And I can honestly say it was one of the best curated, managed, executed events, from everything from the pickup to the, going around in the desert and in the cars and like jumping over sand dunes and stuff, to the actual like oasis in the desert with the belly dancer and the fire dancer, and just like even the presentation, like everything flowed so smoothly. The food was great. Like there's not a single thing that I could fault that event on. Not a single thing. And that was like my first taste of Monkey DAO. So yeah, really, really special. And I also made so many new friends as well. Like literally, I probably made like 20 new friends at the Monkey DAO event. So yeah, definitely a special
Wow.
memory.
No, that's amazing to hear. This is why we do what we do, and this is what makes everything worth it. I think, huge shout out to the entire community. Truly, I think we always say this as well. Yes, the team can come together and put together as many events as possible, but without the community, we are just a beautiful empty shell, and that's the last thing we want. So, huge shout out to everyone who showed up, and especially, all the community members.
Yeah, I also
Absolutely.
just give a shout out to you guys as well, just in general. Like, Monkey DAO has been such a backbone of the Solana NFT community, like just for so many years. I don't spend as much time in there as I used to in the past, and I miss it. But it's also one of those things where it's like me, many others started in Monkey DAO and still have their NFTs and will always have that place in their heart for Monkey DAO, where we all met and were able to like build businesses of our own. Like, I think that's probably one of the coolest things about Monkey DAO is you see so many people join and move up the ranks and get to a point where they're building their own products, their own tools or whatever. And it's just always this consistent, like, kind of home that you can go back to. You're always going to see friendly faces. You're going to see some new faces. And yeah, I mean, it's just awesome. And in this time where NFT communities are kind of like far and few between, like, I mean, it just, Monke DAO is here to stay. Like, you guys have managed to also, secure yourselves in like kind of funding, and also just kind of as in like maintaining an entity that's going to survive for the long term, which is the biggest part of any startup, I guess. I don't know if you call it, I don't know if you call Monke DAO, it's not really a startup, right? But it's like I guess it's a startup community, right? One of the first ever, NFT crypto communities that actually has been able to do what it's managed to do. So yeah, big shout out to you as well, Jamie, and the entire team. I see Simon there and Cersei as well. And, just a bunch of legends from the community that have all made like Monke DAO what it is and continually make it what it is,
Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are too kind. I think, we really want to, keep ourselves focused on the element, or rather the piece of people, as opposed to like the piece of like speculation, which is one of the key thing that we try to identify as much as possible, as quickly as possible in the, sort of like earlier last 1 to 2 years, especially. One of the biggest reason why we deliberately went down a whole route of like rebranding, of like not calling ourselves, with the initial tagline of the first NFT DAO in Solana, to what we try to call ourselves today, being the premier Web3 country club, tries to sort of bring back the focus of, hey, like, this is all about people and people first.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah, I definitely think that community first approach is like the right direction to go, for sure. Like, making sure that people feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and like just kind of creating like a family unit, and that's really what Monke DAO is. So yeah, I think just to kind of start things off, obviously there's going to be a lot of people tuning in today who maybe haven't, I'm sure everyone's heard of Monke DAO, but maybe people don't understand like exactly what it is and what are like the moving parts and stuff. So maybe to start off, Jimmy, you can break down a little bit about Monke DAO, Monke Ventures, Monke Foundry. What is kind of the difference between those moving parts, and how does it all fit together? And then I guess it's a bit of a triple barrel question, but what is kind of the difference between owning the different generations of SMBs? Like, how does that tie into Monke Ventures and Monke Foundry?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. I think these are like great questions, and I hope we do have like some friends who are like, hey, what exactly is Monke DAO? And hopefully this session helps to answer that. So yeah, Monke DAO, as we kind of like briefly shared earlier as well, is the premier Web3 country club. We have a very, very strong focus on people and people first above all things, and that's something that we've been pretty much anchored upon since the very beginning, and it's still the same now, going into our 5th year. We have pretty much focus around the whole goal of building an ecosystem that supports the DNA of builders that we have within the Monke DAO community. And through the years as well, we have sort of seen the evolution of different sub-committees that continue to form within the Monke DAO nucleus. So one of which, for example, in the earlier days that we sort of started spinning off, is the Monke Ventures sub-community. So Monke Ventures is a sub-community of Monke DAO, and the way we look at it and the way we sort of envision it is that Monke DAO is the heart and soul, of the community, right? And the way we sort of use more relevant words is from a Web2 conglomerate perspective, it's the parent entity. Now, within the parent entity itself, our goal is to build various ecosystems surrounding it, such that there's even more reasons for individuals / community members to be involved. And the very first vertical is the Monke Ventures piece. Monke Ventures is the decentralized investment syndicate, for us at Monke DAO. Everyone who's a member of Monke DAO can apply to join Monke Ventures. And to date, we've backed close to 40 teams. And a huge shout out to one of the team, one of our portfolio company, Ranger Finance. They are also, doing their ICO right now live on Monke DAO. And so that's one of the very proud portfolio companies of ours alongside other teams. And just to be clear, we did investments primarily, on Solana. We back teams primarily on Solana, but we also, are able to back teams outside of Solana. So for example, Mr. Labs, Sui, is also one of the teams that we back, I think in the Series B or so. So following which, I think, Chris, you mentioned about the Monke Foundry. Monke Foundry is actually an evolution of Build with Monke DAO. So initially, Build with Monke DAO was envisioned to sort of to be crafted up to help support builders across the ecosystem from an NSA sort of perspective. No strings attached. Free grants, take the grant, build. We try to experiment by using our community to say, how can we use the community piece that we have that is super uniquely Monke DAO to help to increase the chances of success for builders across Solana? Because the harsh truth, as we have seen across the years and even through our work with Monkey Ventures, is that yes, some of the most talented teams, you can go out there, you can raise a bunch of money, but the most critical piece is still the end users. So our core value proposition, within Monkey Ventures, within Build with Monke DAO, and right now within Monkey Foundry is that, hey, we can come in and be the community partner. We can help give early teams who are at the forefront of tech innovation and whatnot the access to these end users, and pretty much help them, also get the direct access, or rather give community members a direct access to the front row seats of these builders from the early stages. So Build with Monke DAO has been a great run. We've done, the first iteration, second iteration, and funded, a good amount of teams that help us get a very good understanding of, what's going on out there and how to best support teams. We've had a lot of learning lessons on what worked well, what didn't work well. So we sort of took all these learning lessons and say, hey, let's come back and rework it and try to align the interests a little bit more by sort of transforming it progressively into an actual incubator by its own. And so that's what Monkey Foundry is today. It's the first official Monke DAO incubator where we work with teams on the very close level and become the community partner / advisor equivalent of them to, pretty much approach their growth, their go-to-market, and everywhere else that's relevant. So the first three teams that is part of the first cohort, one is, of course, Span, and I see that we do have our friends from Span also in the chat. Huge shout out to them. Very excited to work with them. The ability for you to basically spend your stable coins on mainstream platforms will no longer be so far away. I think with Span, they'll help to turbocharge that journey and the accessibility. There's also Math Engine. LPing is so tough. So with Math Engine, it makes it a lot friendlier, a lot more accessible. And the last tips is pre-stocks. Pre-stocks essentially making it a lot more accessible for people to trade like pre-IPO stocks. And so the whole thesis around Monkey Foundry is that there's a bunch of incubators out there. Do we really want to compete and be another incubator? Not so much. So we do have a thesis, if you can see, for example, from looking at, Span, Math Engine, as well as pre-stocks, they are all very aligned in the consumer sort of ecosystem on how to make, Web3 accessible to the Web2 piece and vice versa. So that's really the whole piece. Apologies that took a little bit longer, and hopefully that helps to provide a good insight into Monkey Ventures and Monkey Foundry specifically, and how they funnel into the whole monkey ecosystem we're trying to build.
Yeah, that was perfect, man. No, there's absolutely no rush. We got plenty of time. We're chilling. So now the next kind of question, which I think is part of that, is like, what, in order to kind of like get involved, which SMB do you need to be holding? Because obviously there's a difference, like in terms of access, there's a difference between, I think it's the Gen 2s and Gen 3s.
Yeah, 100%. So the way that we sort of share with individuals out there is that, Monkey DAO as a collective itself, the whole Gen 3 is really designed to make it even more accessible for individuals to sort of get a good understanding of what Monkey DAO is. So the Gen 2 collectibles are essentially the OG, collectibles on Solana. But, aside from just being a collectible itself, there's also Monke DAO, which is the social layer that lives on top of the SMBs. So it also, because it is the originating sort of collectibles that form Monke DAO, it also owns the governance rights as to, how Monke DAO operates, etc. And the way today, Monke DAO has progressively transformed towards is almost like a progressive decentralization, where certain modules of, the different operations, for example, like an annual governance process, where elections, you can elect a lead executive, you can elect board members, but it is not as complex and not as taxing to the extent whereby, hey, everybody, let's vote for lunch together. So that's one thing that we've avoided from the get-go, so that the governance piece is actually made accessible to individuals who hold the SMB Gen 2. And, the SMB Gen 3 collection is a great way for individuals to sort of want to get a better understanding of what Monke DAO is. But, perhaps, you kind of just want to, get an easier way to get access into them before you sort of decide, hey, do I want to make this home like a forever home? So another way to look at it in a more layman terms is that the Gen 2 SMBs are essentially like an equity pass to the premier Web3 country club called Monke DAO. And then the SMB Gen 3 collectibles become essentially a social pass within the whole country club model that allows you to get social access to, all the events, get to meet people, etc., etc. But perhaps you just do not have that governance rights. Essentially, when we actually roll out events or various incentives, various programs, various community members, engagements, kind of like initiative and whatnot, or any campaign really, including the likes of like Monkey Ventures, the priority still goes to SMB Gen 2 holders. That's one of the key perks of being a sort of equity member per se within the Monke DAO ecosystem. And the SMB Gen 3s are continuing, or should I say, the SMB Gen 3s continues to be a very key part of the whole community activation model for us. Because think about it this way, the sort of early thesis is that with the SMB Gen 2 alone, there's probably only 5,000 members that we can ever reach. Now, we do want to expand that in a deliberate manner. How do we expand that, still and retain that OG sort of status for SMB Gen 2? And so that Gen 3 collection was then designed to say, hey, let's carve out with the Gen 3 collection, allow individuals to get easier access, and perhaps they don't have to fork out as much money for a Gen 3.
Yeah, I think that's always, like when Gen 3 came out, I know there was obviously like, if we go back into the history, right, it's obviously quite a contentious time. Like as in NFTs, people don't like dilution, but I think we could talk for ages about all the crazy shit that went on in the past. I mean, acquisitions of Monke DAO and buying backs and all sorts of, it's had an insane history. We could probably dive a little bit into that for people who don't know it. But I think in the long term, right, like the Gen 3 is a great way to expand the base as it has. We've seen, right? Like you just said, like this breakpoint was probably the most highly attended for Monke DAO members. Like you guys had the most. 400's the most ever. Hey, Jamie. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, Seb, you're absolutely right. I think, without the Gen 3, I think, especially in these markets as well, I think it's always tough to find a balance, and it still is a challenge every other day. But, we sort of recognize the sort of delicate line that you have to tread between exclusivity and accessibility. And it's never a perfect equation. Yeah, you just have to, find the right balance there. And sometimes you need to do certain trade-offs, but just know that, as much as we try to prioritize the sort of exclusivity, the accessibility piece continues to be a challenge, and hopefully at some point, they can merge to become like a heart shape. But it is something that we are actively working towards.
It takes years, right? Like we always have this discussion, right? Like what Solana's been around, 4 years now, and it's kind of like a business takes about 3 years before it becomes profitable. I know that's like kind of like a whatever, but I kind of feel like this idea of like these things need time to grow, and like, and now we've seen this actually, happen where there's now 400 members at this event. If we keep seeing Solana and also crypto obviously keep growing, which we will, and these communities become more of a thing, which is, nowadays everyone is looking for community. One of the biggest things that people look for, especially in this day and age, is community, right? and this is like the digital equivalent of that, right? You get your pass, you meet your friends online, it's in Discord, it's on Twitter, it's all these different kind of places. Very likely in the next 5 years, I mean, I have no doubt that Monke DAO will still be around, but you could see these events becoming 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people events, and they all have a little SMB, and there's the kind of like the, a rising tide lifts all group, or a rising tide lifts all boats, or whatever. I know Devour loves to say that, so shout out to him. But I kind of just see this trajectory, just increasing with time. And I guess, just so I don't keep on ranting here, what is your, like, if you had to think 5 years down the line, right? Let's say like Solana maybe was like, oh, the changing a little bit or whatever. Like, where do you see Monke DAO in 5 years? Do you see it like doing like its own, like more the kind of the events you did in New York? I think it was called the Solus or something event that you guys did.
Solstice.
Solstice. Right. So like more of you guys own things like that, where it's like now you can become your own self-sufficient entity. You're getting more IP products now attached, like Nomu with the collectible we can go into. But yeah, just really interested to see where your head's at and the team's head is at.
Yeah, 100%. I think what we're trying to, sort of focus on, at least, for this year ahead, is around, embedding the whole Monke DAO ecosystem such that it becomes much more explicit than what it is today. 2025 was a year filled with a lot of experiment for us, but as much as it is, filled with a lot of experiments, it was also focused around laying the foundation that we can build upon for this year ahead. For example, we do have the Monkey Ventures that we, recently sort of completed the migration upon. Well, with the migration that is completely transited, we are potentially looking at opening our access, from a service provider standpoint. So fingers crossed, we're trying to, fire across multiple cylinders there. But of course, with Monkey Foundry, I think, our entire focus is really around how do we help to leverage on the community piece to ensure that the teams in, the Monkey Foundry cohort can collectively be driven towards success alongside, the team members, most importantly. But I think a big part of the push is also how to continue to future-proof ourselves. I think one of the things that we, sort of early on figure out and we kind of briefly talked about is to try to move away from the connotation that this is only an NFT and an NFT thing, right? And so we don't kind of want to like limit ourselves to say that, hey, if NFT markets are like, quiet or quieter than it is there a scenario whereby, Monkey DAO does not continue to exist anymore? So we kind of want to, move away from that and give individuals more reasons to be a part of Monkey DAO. And at some point, we see this becoming purely like an access mechanism and still, trying to find a good balance where people will still have a good reason to collect these NFTs. Mm-hmm. So 5 years from now, I think we will continue to try ways to future-proof it. But I think the whole goal, as you have rightly mentioned, Seb, is to try to experiment with different IP, done in a very progressive manner and phased out manner, then say that, hey, let's do it step by step. For example, with Nomu, we were able to test out, what the appropriate launch mechanism, how do we approach IP launch correctly, through both using the Web3 community interest to seed the initial launch to get it out to market first. And that's only phase one, right? Because, having that sort of 10,000, 20,000 people looking at those products is great. But the true success is if we can get that 10,000 plushies, multiply and put them in front of 100,000, 200,000 people, 300,000 people, and grow them to kind of like a household IP. And I think a few peers across the ecosystem has done an incredible job. For example, going into the mainstream channels like Instagram, Clean Source did an amazing job there. Paji as well did an amazing job there. Content is great, relevant. And so I think there are a lot of case studies that we can undertake there that says that, hey, how do we continue to future-proof ourselves? Content from us doesn't have to be only limited to Web3 or blockchain alone, right? How do we use that IP to create relatable content that people want to interact with, people want to collect with, people want to associate with, and people will eventually feel proud to be a part of. So there's not going to be kind of like a one size fit all, or like a one way to approach it. But I think the way that we are sort of trying to split this up is that, okay, we do have a very unique, Web3 DNA. How do we continue to do that well? Because that's a strength of ours, right? So maybe Monkey Foundry, Monkey Ventures continue to serve that need. But serving that need alone is not enough because we are only limited to the visibility of our existing membership. How do we break it out such that there's also the Web2 element that other people can say that, hey, so this is what Monkey DAO is, this is what I want to, be involved. This is what I want to be a part of. And then there's also like the enjoyers that say that, hey, I just want to be a part of this brand. This is a fun brand, right? And this is how I collect it. This is how I collect the IP, etc. This is how I share the love and joy. But I think all in all, probably a good way to break it down is the 3 different pieces. Continue to do Web3 things well, being the anchor of the Web3 reference for community, regardless if they are from Solana or beyond Solana, hopefully. So that's one piece. The second piece is to say, hey, how can we find builders outside of existing membership, outside of existing, social circles, to try to, sort of help them be educated and informed around what Monkey DAO is about, right? And help them understand what the Monkey DAO vision is, and hopefully, maybe sort of entice them to join us and be a member as well, so to get conversion side of thing. And then the last final piece is really around like the brand outreach, the IP awareness, the IP experiments, etc., etc.
Yeah, I was kind of going through the monkey stats there just while you were talking, give you a little bit of a visual display of everything. But it's incredible. You guys crushed it. $900,000 in what's a GMV? I don't know. Is that gross? Whatever. What is that? I don't know what that is.
Volume, I think.
Gross something volume. Gross monkey volume. Is that what it's supposed to say? Gross monkey volume?
I like that. Yeah. But yeah, I think. So essentially, the GMV is essentially the numbers that the entire, the total value of the trades pertaining to that specific collection. So I think can it be better? Always 100%, but we are definitely counting our blessings. In a period where I think the key challenge that we're facing is how do we move away from collectibles? Because noticeably, we were not the first team that were doing collectibles. There were a lot of other teams that were doing collectibles, right? And so a lot of them have been focused around like speculation piece, which is not an issue at all. It's not a problem per se, right? But I think what we really want to champion, and the message that we want to send across, is that we want to, eventually fulfill these orders. We don't want people to participate, for the purpose of speculating. So our whole messaging around the campaign is that own a plushie. This is a cute plushie. You should own it, give it to your friends and family, instead of like, hey, trade it on secondaries, hey, try to get a rest, sell it back, do a lot of volume.
That's where I think IPs in the long run ain't go to. I mean, listen, like, it's not necessarily that's where they go to die, right? I think it's just it's the same as like you look at the current TCG or trading card game market. Like, it's ridiculous. You get the scalpers come in, it becomes so expensive, they buy everything out, and then they sell it for ridiculous prices on the secondary market. Nobody can get it. The dad can't buy his son some Pokemon cards because it's like, yeah, there's one of them, Chris, the scalper. No,
you can see that already happening as well. Like, I think, Jemmy, you're right, because there is projects that recently have done like different drops, right? May they be like blind boxes or merch or whatever it is, and are actively like pushing that speculation narrative, right? And I've noticed, I did a little bit of research the other day actually, but like a lot of these drops are already below the original purchase price. People aren't really talking about them anymore. So it's very interesting the way you guys went about it. And I'm curious, like, for you, where do you see like the NFT market right now? Like, it feels to me that projects like the good OG projects are starting to mature in a way where like you are trying to branch out to Web 2 aspects and trying different things. Like, I think if you're not maturing and kind of building at least some sort of IP for the brand, then inevitably, like in 5 years' time, you won't be around, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, really the way that we're seeing is that there's a lot of like consolidation happening. Of course, smaller teams or like projects may eventually find a little bit tricky to survive. I think literally running an NFT community is probably one of the, I would say not the most glamorous job, for anybody. And I think it's like kind of like a tall order. And I think over the last years or so, a lot of individuals have slowly started to realize that, hey, launching an NFT collection and running an NFT project isn't that fun, actually, right? And that's because
hard work.
Hard work. And it's just, you are essentially trying to build a community, and oftentimes you'll see a lot of like varying voices, a lot of noises, distraction. You are like put across like 3,000 other direction and trying to optimize one that is best for the community. And so I think through that whole process as well, there's a lot of consolidation happening. A lot of like the smaller projects have sort of started to like slow down a little bit. And I think we see that trend pretty much started to already take place across the whole of 2025, and even like, the second half of like 2024 or whatnot, right? The number of projects that you can count, that you can talk about, you can think of, you can probably count with like one hand, right, to some degree. So I think really the key part for us is, how do we then continue to stand out, right? When people talk about Monke DAO, what do we want them to remember us at? But one thing that is very clear, for example, I'll share this very candidly, is that we definitely want to avoid ourselves from at any point being associated with a utility NFTs. The moment you become a utility NFT, I think that is really, I'm struggling to find the right word to describe it, just to be very,
you
careful.
hinder yourself, you cap yourself, right?
Yes.
You cap yourself, Jamie.
Yeah.
Like there's now a ceiling to what you can achieve because people have an expectation.
That's the problem. That is the thing that people wanted most badly from NFTs is the thing that ultimately led to their demise. Utility led NFTs to the graveyard, in my opinion. At the end of the day, NFTs, you don't need to overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, it's digital art. It's a digital collectible. So like, think Pokemon card, but it's on chain. You own that digital collectible. And it gives you, literally, you put it perfectly, Jimmy. At the end of the day, it's giving you access to a community, right? Of builders, of traders, of like-minded people, of people who, you can make friends with, you can learn from, people who can help you grow. That is, in its simplest form, the best way to think about an NFT in this day and age. As soon as you start having different expectations, it just becomes so much harder.
I guess it depends though, right, on the content. Like, I think you got to put them into different like categories, right? Like lifestyle community NFTs, right? Then you also have like functional utility NFTs. A utility NFT essentially shouldn't be a community NFT. A functional NFT should be like using NFTs for ticketing or something like that. Like,
yes,
it's functional.
100%.
But when it comes to art and community NFTs, or a service or a product, and I can use an example, right? Like, and I was going to give out like, so as FaZe, we took over Netrunner. We've rebuilt that whole entire tool, and we've relaunched it. And the original team, like, they launched an NFT to raise funds, which was cool. NFTs for funding mechanism, and then it gave you the ability to use the app or whatever as like your pass. But that didn't work out. Everyone was trying that in 2022. It just doesn't work, right? Like, you can't give the NFT utility because you can't foresee the future of royalties getting taken away, of, people sending them to one another to get access and all these kinds of things. They tried to make a change in 2023. It was a little too late. Now the NFTs, essentially, you can burn the Netrunner NFTs, 10 of them, you get a 30% discount on the platform, right? So it's just like, at the end of the day, like, that was an era that was interesting and exciting, right? I think it had to happen, right? All these things had to happen, and we've learned now, we've learned what does work and what doesn't work. And I still think that mix of utility, art, and culture was like a mass onboarding event for a chain like Solana. And I don't think
Exactly.
Solana would be here today if it wasn't for that community that came in because of the art and the NFTs and all of that. Like, and it created like a nice mix in environment. It wasn't just like devs. It was also like creatives and people on the fringes, and it just is this melting pot of different kinds of people, But anyway,
100%. Yeah.
Don't want to digress here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, the way you put it is perfect. I think there are essentially, different purposes and especially, for like the utility related NFTs, if it's like functionally designed for certain specific purpose, keep it that way. But I think example, if it's meant to be like an access pass, then, keep it true to what it is. But I think that the key challenge, for example, a lot of people have been sort of like experimenting the whole like, hey, stake your NFTs, get passive income. And how is the value of your NFTs going to be pegged to? Of course, the value of disbursements that you're going to give to people, right? And that's how they do it in traditional worlds anyway, and people will continue to do it for that manner. But I think, like you said, if not for the wave of experiments, the 2-3 years worth of experiments that we see, the whole space, right, not just Solana, will not be the way it is. And throughout the process as well, I think the fact that everything took place pretty much went through a natural filtering process, right? It sort of weed out like the different sort of participants, what purposes people are here for, and sort of vice versa, right? Trying to make sure that the right people get involved with the right, sort of like projects, right places and whatnot. So I think that whole sort of what worked, what didn't was a natural sort of process where everybody eventually found what they wanted to spend time on and, eventually found their own anchor. But I think, to that point around, sort of trying to avoid being classified as a utility NFT is really around the fact that we just don't want people to sort of end up using dollars and cents to peg to the value of, example like Monke DAO. And one thing that we try to sort of communicate and tell people is that we are not exactly trying to reinvent the wheel, because if you think about it, collectors clubs, interest groups traditionally already existed for the longest time ever, right? And the biggest difference about us and what we are trying to achieve here is that with NFTs, you are able to organize a community, in a decentralized fashion, in a global fashion at scale. And you can do it, in an efficient manner to some degree. And so, it's still focused around, interest groups. People come together for various reasons. They sort of subscribe to the SMB identity. They share, the SMB values, the vision of Monke DAO, and what it means to be part of like a Web3 country club. And that's kind of like what we wanted to, be anchored around.
100%. I wanted to just add a little bit on there because you touched on it earlier, Jemmy, but like I do think that the whole IP side of things is definitely going to be like, if NFTs have a comeback, I feel like the mass appeal of like strong IP plays like like Klenos and Pudgy is like, those are good case studies for how IP can kind of tie into it. And I think that like it's almost like if you look at Pokemon and One Piece, and then you look at like some of the strongest NFT projects or digital collectible projects, whatever you want to call them, they both kind of have that strong IP. And now with Pokemon cards and One Piece, you're now seeing the value being attached to the strong IP. So I definitely think that the same thing will happen with digital collectibles as well. And I think leaning into the IP angle is definitely a good play. And I'm excited to see how you guys kind of tackle that this year and go into that. I think that's an exciting prospect for sure.
Win Monkey trading cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That is interesting.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, we've had a few conversations around it. Let's put it that way. A few folks have like reached out around like potentially doing that, but I think we're trying to see how to really prioritize it, because we don't want to flood the market with too many of these things, like how we did for like merch, right? For example, there was an era of like crypto merch just being out there and everywhere, and you go to every conference, you would bring a luggage there, and cool, you collect everything and you go back home. What do? You park them aside, and then 3 years later, when you're doing housekeeping, you kind of like end up just throwing them away. So we kind of want to be a little bit more intentional. So we've been becoming a little bit more careful. For example, like Breakpoint merch as well. We ended up not doing like t-shirts and things like that. We ended up doing things like the speakers. We even tried out like a portable charger. We didn't eventually produce that because of a timeline issue, but we will focus more around like functional things that people can use. So the speakers was a fun experiment, the handheld fan was like a fun experiment, and even let me see if I can show you guys this. Like here we go, I actually have it. So here we go. You can see this, like, I think Chris said you guys probably have it.
Oh,
This
that's
is a
sick.
very nice keychain, right? It's just like a keychain.
Oh, that's sick. But it's a bottle opener.
It's a
Oh,
bottle
right on.
opener.
I
So
love that.
like,
Hell
it's sort
yeah.
of like, let's keep things fun, but also like keep things like functional so that people can keep it. So the kind of like the thesis that we have for like cards and IP experiments is that how do we drop them, sort of build a following, build a demand, build some curiosity, and then try to sustainably push it out and say that, hey, here are the second variation, here's the third variation, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's sick. I really like the keychain. I didn't see that. I'm going to be honest. I was so disappointed that I couldn't get any. Like, I mean, I didn't get any Monke DAO merch at Breakpoint.
Oh man,
So
no worries.
I'm going to have to make a
we'll
plan to.
next time.
Awesome, brother. That sounds good. All right, cool. Well, moving on a little bit, Seb. I know you have something you'd like to share.
Well, I mean,
I heard we have an exciting, perks for monkeys.
yeah. So, right. You guys all know it. We talk about it all the time. Taxes. Okay. So Netrunner is doing a partnership with Monke DAO here to support the community. We got a discount code there for you guys at the bottom, code Monke10 for 10% off Netrunner. A portion of that goes back to the Monke DAO community. There's a referral fee that goes back to the Monke DAO community as well. We're going to be doing a little bit of like a session next week with you guys to show it off a little bit. And just to be totally honest, right? Like, no one likes taxes, but I mean, we've really, really worked hard on taking Netrunner, rebuilding the entire app from the ground up, and making it something that is, just improves when it comes to Solana taxes. That is our main focus. We know how tough it can be. There's 100,000 transactions on the base plan. We're still at a 1 SOL price point until January 15th. So up until January 15th, it's still only 1 SOL for the entire year on Netrunner. You get 100,000 transactions. We have auto labeling for all major Solana programs. We're adding new programs every day. We've got Flash Trade and Jupiter perps and like Drift perps also coming. We're going to be a powerhouse for perps traders. It's really, really just, an amazing app, and we have so much more in the works coming up. So if you're looking for a great tax tool at an affordable price, before it goes to $189 on the 15th, 1 SOL right now, 100,000 transactions, major support for all Solana programs. And if you want to ever ask us any questions or hit us up, we'll be in the town hall next week to kind of give you guys a bit of a rundown. And please feel free to DM myself or our Netrunner at Netrunner Tax Twitter, and we'd be happy to help. But yeah, we'll do a little bit of a video at the end as well for those who are still around.
Okay.
Otherwise, I want to kind of end off with Jemmy here and just kind of like, just say thank you so much for coming, brother. Really appreciate you taking the time. Super excited for everything else that Monke DAO has to offer. Like, dude, you've done an incredible job. Got to give you your flowers, and also same to the rest of the team as well. Really is just an incredible group that really, really care about the DAO and everything that's happening. And yeah, we're always here to support whatever you guys need. Big Monke fans. Gatto, big question. Gatto, do you have a Monke? Do you have an SMB?
I have a Gen 3. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's go.
Amazing.
I've actually been shopping the last few days, just kind of looking.
Nice.
I need something. I need like the perfect one. I used to have.
I need to pick a couple Gen 3s up
for me. I don't know how, it was a long time ago though, but I need to get
very
Gen 2 back.
nice. Let's do it. Yeah. So it sounds like this is like a Monkey Face Live. Not the Face Live. It's the Monkey Face Live featuring Monke DAO.
You know what though? Like if you meet any building team on Solana, the chances are there is a monkey at the helm.
Give
100%.
this man the flowers. That's exactly right. I love to hear it. But yeah, we that's kind of like the vision that we're building towards, and we are like firm believers of that. For example, Seb, and what the whole team at FaZe is doing is just an incredible testament of the builder's DNA. And having seen how hard Seb works, I think example has been a very active contributor at Monke DAO. He literally had to step aside and say, hey, FaZe is like taking off now. like I need to dedicate, and bust my ass to make sure that we bring this to the next level. And off event with like Netrunner and whatnot, and having dealt with like US taxes before, I know it's a nightmare. It's an entire nightmare. I pray to God I never ever have to deal with that again. So I
we got
know
you if you
that.
need to.
Yes, exactly. So for all our friends looking at this, if you're wondering, how to sort of, get your taxes done better, I think, Netrunner is really the go-to platform, and the team behind it, there can't be anyone better running this. They are pretty much the guys who put in their heart and soul to make this happen. And really, really proud to, be able to do this with you guys. And thank you so much for extending this opportunity for us. The success of our fellow monkeys is what Monke DAO is all after. We share in the joy and the success of our fellow monkeys.
Thanks, Jamie. Dude, appreciate it so much. And I definitely want to come back and help with whatever I can when I get some more time. Always here to support the monkeys. And yeah, just thanks.
Oh, Seb cut out a little bit there.
Oh, oopsie. I just said a lot of loves, a lot of happy things, a lot of virtual hugs. But yeah.
Legend.
Otherwise, Jamie, if you want to say, we do have a very exciting Netrunner video just to get everyone hyped if they are still on the fence.
And I heard that if you are a member of Monke DAO, next week's town hall, we might have like a little bit of a demo for you to be able to sit through. So if you want to be ready for your taxes by April, well, technically by March, because April will probably be too late, come by to town hall next week. The entire Netrunner team has very graciously agreed to do a little bit of a demo to walk you through how to use the Netrunner platform. So come by and figure out and join us there.
Oh, yes. And just remember, the one soul plan is still available till the 15th. But if you want to take it... Sorry, Chris?
I said you got about a week.
You got about a week. We will be releasing a free tier soon as well. So if you want to wait, you can. But then it's going to be the $189 price point and you won't get those savings. But all in all, I'll throw this quick video up and then we'll see our final goodbyes and we'll head on for the day. All right, guys, get ready to get your minds blown. Always gets me so hyped. All right. Any final words?
That was a great video, by the way. Really nice.
This is a heavy breathing for me.
Oh yeah, it's that. You know what it does it for me, Gatto, is that at the end.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you export your turbo tax form.
Oh, sigh of relief, or something else.
Well, Jamie, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you wanted to share with us before you leave?
Not really. Yeah, thank you so much for having us on the show. This was really nice. Definitely enjoy, being on this session. I think you guys are just very lovely people that we've been so fortunate to be able to call friends. So thank you for having us once again. It's always a joy to be able to work alongside you all.
Thanks, Jamie.
No,
appreciate you, man.
bro.
Much love, brother.
Take care, Jimmy.
Okay.
See you again.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right, boys. Well, I guess we've got something else to quickly talk about before we close shop. Also, awesome. Always good to have Jamie on. Absolute legend. Love Monke DAO. Honestly, looking at the floor a little bit now, and I'm like, there are some pretty Gen 3s lying around.
That's sweet.
Nice. Yeah.
Bring out the broom.
Bring out the broom. But on another note, for people that, I don't know, have been paying close attention to FaZe, probably noticed that the FaZe background, if you've been to some of our FaZe lives, is a little bit different. You can see there's an updated logo in the top left, and we've got this different kind of color scheme. So this is a sign of things to come. We've been teasing it a little bit on our socials, but there will be a rebrand happening, and we're going to be kind of changing everything up a little bit. We're going to be bringing Aero Pool, which is our Solana ecosystem stake pool, and Sentinel, which is our institutional grade validator infrastructure, SOC 2 certified, node management. We're actually going to be changing those brands and bringing them under the FaZe umbrella finally. So FaZe Stake will be the new Aero Pool, and FaZe Delegate will be the new Sentinel. So keep an eye out for that, which is very, very exciting.
Said dropping alpha.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, gotta let the boys know. Gotta let the gang know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, boys.
All right.
That
Any
was fun.
closing remarks, boys, before we dip?
Yes, I've got one. Reject humanity, return to monkey.
Great. There it is.
There it is.
All right, lads. We'll see you next week for our next guest,
Boys.
which is who is it, Chris?
Asgard-fi.
Very, very excited.
Hey.
To
I'm
have
excited for that one.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's going to be sick.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
hopefully we've got Frisk on later in the month.
Yes. Well, honestly, got a lot of lives planned. So anyone in the audience, we need to talk to the Spain guys. We've got to get them on. If you're interested in joining FaZe Live, please DM us, and we can chat. But other than that,
100%.
cheers.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. Peace out.
Later, guys.
Bye-bye.